leading up to Ghost of Yotei's release, things were not looking good. For Sony, you had Erika Ishii, who was an extremely controversial figure. People were extremely upset that they replaced Jin Sakai. We know that there were several employees who mocked the death of Charlie Kirk, and now that it's launched, there are shills trying their best to defend it tooth and nail, even though there's no real evidence of it being a massive success so far. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I absolutely loved Tsushima, and I would have loved a sequel to it, and I wasn't completely opposed to the idea of it being an anthology where you have different characters in each game, and the main problem with this title for me personally is what's gone on behind the scenes. Now, I can typically look past some of the controversies that surround a game leading up to release, typically one actor or two actors in a title in the real world being pretty vocal. I can look past typically if there are situations where the social media team is hiding some comments. I can look past that, but with this game, it's just been a massive pile of problems, which is why I personally am choosing to wait to purchase it when it is on a deep, deep discount. But this is a game that we knew would probably be successful to some extent. I never thought that it was going to come out and be a complete and utter failure, but at the same time, I didn't expect it to be some massive game. I thought it would probably sell 3 to 4 million copies, which is positive for them if they did keep the budget under $100 million, like it's being reported. But at this point, we are days out from release and we've got no information. But of course, the PR storm is out in full effect. So this is a post by Hypnotic. He said, "I'm honestly shocked it's happening so fast, but the level of nonsense we are seeing is through the roof." This is the article that is currently being thrown around right now to quickly shift the narrative of Yotei in its favor as soon as possible. They claim the game has sold over 1 million copies, conveniently just barely passing Tsushima's original numbers on day one, which, by the way, was probably always going to happen. Tsushima was a new game in a new series that didn't have an extreme amount of hype behind it. It's when it came out and it was doing so good and people saw it was so cool, that's when they decided to support it. But we're not talking about an existing series at that point, so of course Yotei was probably going to sell more at the beginning. But yes, these shills are throwing around this article that says Ghost of Yotei has reportedly sold over 1 million copies, selling faster than GOT, and they even say that the response towards Yotei is more positive, which is a blatant lie, and there's no evidence pointing to the 1 million copies. SuckerPunch hasn't said this. Sony hasn't said this. A developer hasn't said this. There's no proof of this happening at all whatsoever. And we even saw this post getting a little bit of attention from someone named That Generic Eric. So we're going to forget about him 5 minutes after this video. They said, "Gamers on board, Ghost of Yotei is the best-selling PS5 game worldwide despite calls for a boycott." Absolutely no proof of this. Absolutely no evidence of this at all whatsoever. It's people just trying to pump out alleged information, and then of course the brain dead masses are going to take it and run with it. And again, I'm not sitting here saying it sold absolutely no copies. There's no proof of that happening either, and I'm sure that it sold quite a few copies on release weekend, but at the same time, these people claim to be better than the individuals they dislike, and yet they are the ones pushing complete and blatant misinformation. They will say that, you know, YouTubers on the right or YouTubers that basically just simply don't align with them are always pushing misinformation, but we see what they're actually doing. And this image is going around proving the contrary now. Of course, this is just a one Best Buy in one location information, but there are images floating around saying, just saw this at Best Buy. They haven't sold a single copy, and it's rows and rows of Yotei. And there was a follow-up saying, not an assumption. I asked if they had a game, and they had a laugh about this, and the guy said they haven't sold any. Meanwhile, Silent Hill and a 30-year-old game remaster, FF Tactics, were sold out. Now, I had actually made a post on this, but I, weeks ago, had decided that I wasn't going to play Yotei, but I thought I canceled my pre-order. I didn't, and I have, of course, now. I'm definitely not going to pick it up at a full price, but I had forgotten to cancel the pre-order, so I had gotten an email from Best Buy saying it was delayed on day one. They actually said that the shipment wasn't coming in until the next day, so I wonder if this happened in a lot of locations across the United States and they lost out on a shit ton of sales because of it. Now, I'm sure that there is still a lot of people that pre-ordered it that were going to pick it up, but at the same time, this could have severely affected the numbers. We won't know until SuckerPunch and Sony actually give us some kind of proof or evidence. I thought that that was really, really interesting. So that's definitely not a good look. Now, going back to Hypnotic's post, he said, you have accounts already spamming X, sourcing this one article as a massive win for Yotei as expected. Who is their source for this information? A random tweet from an account with less than 10K followers. What is that account source? Well, it's quite clearly, trust me, bro. These people say that they're, oh my gosh, so much better than us, and they have ethics, and they're journalists, or, hey, you're not a journalist because you don't cite the sources I support, and yet when it fits their narrative, they reference an account with less than 10K followers and say, yeah, we have to own the chuds with this information. These accounts do the same thing with every controversial game, and yet 95% of the games they do this for end up failing, resulting in layoffs or even worse, studio closures. But hey, as long as you get to have the perception of dunking on the chuds, I guess that's all that matters. Now, of course, there are going to be plenty of people out there who are going to play this game and probably going to love it, and I'm not saying it looks like the worst game ever. I just personally didn't want to play it after everything that happened and everything surrounded this game. I just decided, you know what, there's other games that I would rather play. I get to go into my backlog, play a Fatal Frame game I've never played before. I did a full live streamed playthrough of Chronos the New Dawn, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and it's just not a title that I personally will be supporting anywhere near full price. And the fact that these people want to go out of their way so much to try to own the chuds is so funny to me, because again, they act like they are basically God amongst men, right? They prop themselves up on pedestals, they say they know what's best, and then either they don't go and support the game, or at the same time, they say, oh, it's doing so phenomenal, and they only really use it to try to get back at the people that really they know have been correct about the video game industry 95% of the time. He also said Ghost of Yotei was already going to survive off the back of Tsushima and sell copies. Absolutely. I'm extremely curious to see how this game performs in Japan. Personally, as Tsushima set records in Japan for a Western game, this game was obviously going to sell over 1 million copies pretty early on, but to claim it as soon and use this level of sourcing just shows me that it hasn't happened, which I completely agree with. They say, yeah, sure, Ghost of Yotei's already sold over 1 million copies. You know, hearing 1.3 million sold on the first day of Yotei, ever so slightly ahead of Tsushima. Yeah, they don't actually want to sit here and cite reliable sources because there are none. They are desperately lying to you about the state of this game and how it's doing. And of course, we knew that the PR storm was going to be pretty big for this game because it's a title the Access Media has propped up. It's a title a lot of people on the left right now are supporting simply because the lead actress is Antifa and they now believe in freedom of speech, in freedom of expression, even though they haven't for years, and they think that it's okay that some of these developers ended up mocking a man's assassination. So we knew that this was going to be a pretty controversial title, and the shills on social media are definitely trying their best to prop up this game. Again, I'm sure that it's going to sell okay, but is it going to sell the millions and millions of copies one initially expected? Probably not. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.